Hey, my name's Levi and welcome back. This video is basically the introduction to the series of figuring out how to refinish this guitar and bring it back kind of from the dead. Before we get started on this project, I just wanted to outline what I'm gonna be trying to do in this video. I'm gonna remove all the paint and the clear coat off of this guitar to prepare it for a nitrocellulose refinish. I'm not a professional refinisher. This is the first time I'm ever refinishing a guitar, so I'm bound to make some mistakes and I might not have all the most accurate information, but this video is meant to show you the process that I went through to get from point A to point B. And a quick disclaimer, if you want to take on a project like this, you gotta know that it's gonna take a long time to get through all of that paint. It's taken me about 6 weeks to put this whole video together, and I've just been kind of taking it little bit by little bit with my free time. I've never actually had a full day that I've spent on this guitar. Anyways, let's get started. So first, I took this razor blade scraper and scraped off all the stickers off of the back of the guitar. Next, I applied Goo Gone to remove the adhesive residue off the back of the guitar. Now it's time to fish out those electronics. So it took a little bit of time to desolder everything, and once that's done, all the electronics can be removed. Then I started removing the pickups out of the guitar, and off comes the neck. I decided to tape the neck bolts to the plate so I'm not mixing up the screws and further damaging the holes. Then I'm gonna tape up the neck joint. This is a really important part of the process because you don't want to add or remove any material on this part of the guitar. So there are 3 methods that I use to strip the paint off the guitar. On the top, I used a sheet sander with 60 grit sandpaper to sand through the paint gradually. I also did a lot of hand sanding. This was really time consuming, but it left me with a nice result that looked really good in my opinion. The second method that I used was to use a heat gun to heat the polyurethane. Then I used a 5-in-1 tool to scrape the paint off. Now this saved me a lot of time, but it was a pretty ugly process, and I thought I burnt the wood in quite a few places. Luckily, I only burnt the sealer coat, but still pretty risky. If you choose this method, do so at your own risk. And the third method is to use a chemical process to strip the paint off of the wood. Now I ended up doing this later in the process, and if I were to do this whole project again, I would definitely introduce the chemical process a lot sooner because I believe, 1, it saves time, it breaks down the polyurethane a lot quicker, and I felt I was able to get a better result by using the chemical process and sanding rather than using the scraper. But let's take a quick step back because we gotta talk about getting the paint off of the sides of the guitar. Now this is one of the hardest parts of the process. I had to fashion my own little guitar holder because I don't have a vise, so I just took some spare wood and some clamps, kind of laid it in there gently, made sure I clamped the guitar down because it wants to move all over the place, and then I got to work with the heat gun and the scraper, gradually scraping away. Getting the paint off of the insides of the horns was very challenging because the angle's constantly changing through that curve. The biggest lesson here is just to be patient and kind of keep gradually working away at it. I bought this flap wheel Dremel bit and put it in my drill, thinking that it might speed up the process of sanding, and it kind of did, but it was really hard to control. And a luthier I know told me that I'm much better off sanding this part by hand so I don't cause any damage to the guitar. So I followed his advice and sanded the rest by hand, and the insides of those horns turned out really well. I had to fill some holes in the guitar, so I got some wood dowels to make some plugs. I marked my drill bit with tape to a specific depth, and that's the same depth that I made each plug. I wish I had known about this method when I was like 14, 15 and using this guitar frequently, because I would have properly fixed it if I actually knew how to do it. Okay, so here's where we're at currently. Basically, I've got it sanded down to the sealer coat. Now, I have tried sanding, right? And I've done quite a bit of sanding here, and I started getting a little bit down to the wood, but basically I wanted to expedite this process because it's taking forever to get past this layer, right, the protective coat. So what I've decided to do here is take this. This product was recommended to me. It's a professional strength paint and varnish stripper, low VOC. So it says here on step 1 of the instructions, you're supposed to shake this up, apply it, and then cover it with plastic, basically to prevent it from drying, so that way it actually continues to work. I'm gonna try to do the backside of the guitar this afternoon here. I actually don't have a brush, so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna wipe it on. So I'm just gonna pour a little bit on here. Some paper towel, and I'm just gonna try to spread that out all across the surface. Put my plastic over it. So after letting that sit for a little while, I uncovered it and started trying to scrape away at it. I didn't find that this worked all that well, so I went back to sanding. I did a lot of this by hand using a hand sanding block, and that made the process a lot easier on my hands. The next day, I applied another coat of the Easy Strip product and let it sit for a couple hours. This time it worked way better. I got a little bit impatient and tried using a belt sander. That didn't really work all that well, and I don't recommend it. It basically takes way too much material off. And after some rigorous sanding, I was finally able to get through all of the clear coat on the back. It took a little more work to get through the clear coat on the belly carve. Once that was finished, I started taking the sheet sander to the sides to try to wear through the clear coat. Once I finally got through the clear coat on the back and the sides, I started prepping the top for another round of Easy Strip. This time I taped the pickup cavities and the bridge post holes, covered it in plastic, let it sit for a while, came back to it, did a whole lot of sanding, and eventually got through all of the clear coat on the front as well. I had to put some extra care and attention into the insides of the horns, just like I mentioned earlier, and it was such a relief to finally get through all of that sealer coat. And at that point, I started gradually sanding up the grit from 60 to 120 to 180 to 220 and then 320. And this is what we're left with. Alright, well, it has been an absolute mission to get this guitar prepped for paint, and I am super stoked to say that stage 1 is complete and we are ready to take it to paint. In the next video in the series, I am gonna cover that process, so stay tuned for that. And I encourage you all, if you liked this video, to subscribe to my channel so you can see more of my stuff. And if you liked it, hit the like button. And until then, I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching this video.